It's interesting just to note, you see very often that the stuff that you see like in movies and superhero stuff, it comes, a lot of times it's adapted from Judaism, like the Golem, inspiration for Dr. Frankenstein's monster.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and like the werewolf, like the first time something like a werewolf was mentioned, it seems his Binyamin. Okay, welcome everybody to the Pray Hard, Play Hard YouTube channel and podcast. Wherever if you're watching or listening, we're really happy that you're here, and we want to thank.
Welcome back. Please subscribe. Don't forget the like button.
We can't see you.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start over then.
Sit down. We have a special guest, Ephraim.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
L.
Ephraim L.
Yes.
Ephraim.
Primal.
Ephraim with a strimel. We'll get you a strimel now. So where's Seltzer? Seltzer. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Seltzer, there you go. Seltzer's in the frame. Seltzer's in the frame.
Was it this one?
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, seltzer. Not one seltzer. Come.
Okay.
We got a tradition with seltzer.
We're going to start with the shock factor this time, right?
Okay.
This siddur, by the way, Yossi and Torah is incredible. No, so where's your part of the intro?
Oh,
Tell the people.
welcome back. Don't forget to subscribe. Definitely press that like button.
It's free. It's free to like.
That's
It doesn't
right.
cost you anything, not even notifications. If you subscribe, maybe, it's tough. You don't want to subscribe and hit your, whatever, a cluttered YouTube, which I don't even know what that means. So, but if you don't, I actually heard another YouTuber say this. If you've watched 2 of our videos and you haven't liked, we've got beef.
Better than chicken. That's right.
It's totally plagiarized. Absolutely plagiarized. I did not make that.
I'm sure he won't mind.
Okay, so how does this Parshah start? The end of last Parshah finishes, right? Parshah last week, Miketz finishes that Yosef decides he catches Binyamin, or he frames Binyamin with the goblet, and he wants to keep him, and he tells the brothers, now he's going to be by me. And now the brothers need to get Binyamin out of there.
Binyamin out, right.
They all have come to the conclusion that it's because of their sins that this is happening, right? Because they sold Yosef and now Binyamin. And it comes to the climax of the point where Yosef reveals, right? I'm Yosef Avinu Chayes, his father's to the land. Right now there's so many midrashim on just this little part of what happens between Yehuda and Yosef. And there's also a lot of hidden messages that are lessons for us in how to serve Hashem.
What really intrigued me is where they talk about how Yehuda was talking to Yosef, and Yehuda, what he does is there's a huge pillar of limestone. So he gets so angry, he kicks it, and all of Egypt felt the vibration, felt the ground shake.
Right.
And then one of his brothers, I believe, yells on top of his lungs, or was it him? Simeon and his other brother,
Shimon and
Levi, right. One was super strong, one was super fast. They basically complement.
Together
they complement,
They're
right.
extremely dangerous. They're the ones who took on Shem single-handedly.
Right. So it almost describes like they have superpowers.
Well, so it definitely, without a doubt, the children of Yaakov, all the Shvatim were incredibly strong to the point where when Yehuda was putting on this show to intimidate Yosef, and then Yosef, I don't know if it was Yosef himself or one of his sons, I think they both might have shown incredible prowess as well. They're like, 1 second, somehow they're connected to our family, because nobody was as strong as Yaakov's family, as the children of
Right. Because it says that one of them wanted to unsheath his sword, and the sword wouldn't come out. And he was thinking to himself, can this man be more righteous than me, that my sword can come out?
Right, why is Hashem why would Hashem be on his side? Yeah, there's so many midrashim, and it's fascinating. As a child, I knew all the midrashim because there was this. He lives right around here. He's a Rebbe here.
Mm-hmm.
He's part of the community. I grew up in LA, but I would fall asleep listening to his Parshah tapes. And whenever it came to this Parshah, I was fascinated. And this is one of the things it says actually over here. It says Yehuda's anger. There was a bunch of things. I'm gonna read first what it says here, and then add stuff that I remember from when I was
His
a child.
chest became red with the anger, something like
So
that.
it says that when he got angry, the hair by his heart would stand on end and would pierce his 5 layers of clothing. He had 5 layers of clothing, and they would pierce it out of anger, which is totally fantastical, And it says that he had pieces of copper in his belt, and it says like a size like a certain seed. I don't know what that word is. If I prepared better, then I'd be able to tell you guys. So I apologize for that. But and he would take these pieces of metal and he would grind them between his teeth, and it would allow him to get angry. It would make him angrier. And when Yosef saw that Yehuda was getting that angry, he says, "Okay, at this point, Egypt is lost.
Mm-hmm.
If he continues, so Egypt is lost." And so he had to say, "I'm Yosef, your brothers."
He put his hand on his shoulder to calm him down.
There's a lot of back and forth. There was physical altercation between them, not to the point of actually hitting, but definitely a match off of showing off of strength.
He was about to go off
For intimidation, yeah. And so Yosef, now it's very interesting because we know that Yosef we also know that it says that he revealed that he was a brother because he couldn't hold back anymore. But there was an element of, if I don't let them know right now, then there's going to be Egypt is going to be destroyed. There's different stories of when they were screaming, so that the soldiers fell and their teeth fell out, and insane things. It's fascinating.
Actually, just a couple of days ago, I found out that Yitzchak was still alive. Yes. At this point, Yitzchak, their grandfather, is still alive.
So I don't know when Yosef was taken, Yitzchak was still alive.
Okay.
I don't know up until one point, and actually Yitzchak knew that Yosef was alive, but he didn't tell Yaakov because if Hashem didn't tell him, if Hashem himself didn't reveal Yosef was alive, it means that that Yaakov doesn't have Ruach HaKodesh, and therefore Yitzchak doesn't have the right to reveal that if Hashem didn't reveal it to him.
That's a good answer.
Because Yitzchak knew that through Ruach HaKodesh as well.
Right.
So if his son doesn't know it, that means it was taken away from him.
What about Benjamin?
What about Benjamin?
Why couldn't he see that his brother was alive and put his father to ease?
I don't know if he knew. I don't.
Because he was also able to read through stars and things like that.
Well, I mean, listen.
How do we know this? When he invites his brother to a tent, and he says, "Look for your brother. You said that your brother is dead. Look for your brother." And he looks for his brother, and he says, "Wait a minute. It says that he's in the tent." And then he reveals himself to him. Oh. So in other words, if Benjamin was able to see if he only looked, did he not look throughout the whole time?
I think, did Yosef reveal himself to Benjamin before he revealed to
First
everybody else?
He reveals to Benjamin.
I don't remember. Yeah, I vaguely remember.
That's how it went. So in other words, Benjamin was able to find Joseph if only he looked. That means all this time he didn't even look.
I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. Definitely Hashem didn't want Yaakov to know.
Or maybe he's on the same boat as Yitzchak. He didn't let him know because but then what about the whole confusion? Him not knowing that his brother is alive. You understand where I'm coming from?
It's possible. I don't know.
Yosef and Benjamin are from the same mom.
Right.
And so Yosef is considered older than Benjamin.
Okay.
And since they share the same mom, once the older brothers came and they all had a feast in Yosef's palace, you could say, he sat him closer and separate the rest of the brothers with the goyim and the other brothers. But Benjamin sat closer.
Okay.
But he used to send hints, and eventually he had a private moment with Benjamin, and he let Benjamin know that I'm Yosef. Eventually, the brothers later on he revealed it to the brothers. One way he revealed it is by showing that the breed. That not the Parshah explanation is why he showed them the breed. Was because the breed is the fact that he didn't sleep with anybody is what made him become a king. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he never blemished the breed is what makes you become prominent at his level. So he was showing them, look, not only that I'm a Jew, I'm circumcised, but look what the reward is for a person who doesn't blemish his breed. He gets the level to become a king. He has all these things given to him. Because a person only reaches high levels of Kedusha, and the breed is a huge, prominent aspect of that. So the deeper explanation why I showed him the breed is that if you want to reach high levels like me, look, I went through Egypt, I went to Potiphar's wife, her name was Zuleika. I went through her, I went through, I sold through all these people. I went through all these things, and I had, why he's called Yosef Sadik is because he's considered the Yisod, the foundation for him is the breed. So he says, look, you want to reach high levels, you have to guard this past. That's what he really showed them. Also, not only that he's Jewish, by showing the breed that circumcised, but he said, the level that I am at, that Paro gave me his necklace, he gave me his ring. He said the only difference between, Paro said, the only difference between me and you is the fact that I'm still a king, but no man can grab his sword or go on his horse without your word. That's the only thing, right? So the breed was how he got there as a king. That was the real, that's the
But was he not one of the people that was born already circumcised?
It's saying, it's going to say something, even if that were the case, he would still be able to prove it.
Right.
It says something about Yosef showed his brother. Yeah, we're going to get there. But I want to just say, so it says actually, this is the thing that it says in the pasuk that Yehuda told, they told Yosef that Binyamin can't leave his father.
Okay.
So it's saying over here, and they said why? Because he'll die and something bad will happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the reason? So here it's saying something fantastical. It says that the Chidor writes in his sefer called Dvash Lafi. He brings in the name of Rabbeinu Ephraim that things that are very hard to accept them on face value. He says that what says in the Torah that Binyamin is a wolf that tears apart is not just an analogy, but it actually happened. And sometimes he would just turn into a wolf and he would tear people apart. And only next to his father did he have a cure for that it wouldn't happen to him.
So his father tamed him.
Yeah.
Okay, another question.
But the Chidor writes that it's hard to accept this on face value because what is that? That's fantastical.
Did he need a full moon?
It's like, what does it mean, right? The full moon. But so this is a way to interpret what Yehuda said to Yosef. It says, don't make him leave his father because if he leaves his father, he's going to die. And he also said something bad is going to happen to him. Why? Because he's going to separate from his father, and then it's possible that he'll turn into a wolf when people are passing by, and they're going to try to kill him in order that he shouldn't hurt them. Right? They're going to try to.
Did Joseph know about this? About his brother? He had to.
I mean, at what point did he get his powers?
That's true too.
I don't know.
That's true too.
It's so crazy.
Because at the time when Joseph was sold, he might have been still a little boy. He was a little boy, actually. He was a little boy. He was an infant when they saw his uncle. You remember when Yaakov puts Yosef comes out and stands in front of his mother.
Was young. Yeah.
Right. So, but Benjamin, I don't even know if he was still already born. If he was an infant.
Right.
So what does that mean? His brother would only turn into a wolf every night, or was it a specific night?
I don't think it says, if there was a specific time when it would happen. It just says that it was something that would happen at times.
Okay.
Now, it's interesting just to note that like you see very often that the stuff that you see like in movies and superhero stuff, it comes a lot of times it's adapted from Judaism, like the Golem. Mm-hmm. I read this that the Golem was the inspiration for Dr. Frankenstein's monster.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And like the werewolf, like the first time something like a werewolf is mentioned, it seems his Binyamin. And just the idea of people having superpowers, I think the closest thing that we've seen to that is the Shvatim, is the Bnei Yisrael, the literal sons of Yaakov.
Yeah, I believe there was one Chacham that they were talking about that was flying on a carpet.
So that's not superheroes. That was Yaakov Buchatzera. He wanted, I think, to go to Eretz Yisrael. They wouldn't let him on
The boat was leaving, and so he sat on a carpet,
and he just followed it.
Floated behind him.
Yeah, so that's more an idea of people who know the secrets of the secrets of the Torah and Kabbalah, and they're holy people, so they can do that. Yeah, but that's not super. This is physical prowess, which obviously is because of the shefa, because of the energy they're getting from godliness, which gives them also more abundance physically. And they were very holy tzaddikim. We see that it's also Yaakov was able to remove the big rock, but if translated physically, so it's a little bit different. Now here's something very interesting. It says that when Yaakov, he says that one of my sons already went away from me, and I haven't seen him until now. Right? He was Torah. So literal translation of Torah means he was torn apart. Which is something very interesting. That Yaakov, he actually had a reason to think that maybe Yosef was still alive.
Oh, so he still had...
Again, the Parshah shot, simple explanation is he thought he was dead. But he's saying here that I didn't see him until now. What does it mean? That normally a person who passes away, he can come to somebody in dreams.
Right.
But he wasn't visited by Yosef in a dream. So therefore he was saying maybe Tarf means what? Also Tarf means someone went crazy. And he thought he was bit by a certain animal which is called a bardalas.
Okay.
And when this animal bites, it makes a person go crazy and act like an animal. So he thought, who knows, my son is off somewhere acting like an animal because he was bitten by an animal. And that's why it says in this thing, right, that it doesn't say any time here necessarily in these words that he thought he was dead. It doesn't say the word death. It says he went away from me, right? And I said, oh, maybe he was torn apart. Or maybe he went crazy, and that's why I haven't seen him come to me even in a dream. Because he hasn't passed away. And he just went crazy because of this animal that did it. Which is, again, this book is one big shock factor. It's just a bunch of insane midrashim that are,
Yeah, but with that said, I was learning not too long ago about people who are deceased. In order for them to come to your dream, there's so much negativity they have to go through. It's like a jungle.
It's not pleasant for someone
to
go.
It's like they could come to your dream, but they take a huge risk because all these negative beings could really attack them and keep them in this world. So they're taking a huge risk to come to our dreams.
Very interesting. I didn't know that there was a risk, but I knew that it was definitely a tircha. It's a very big trouble for a neshama to come in a dream, which is why you only see when they come to a dream for very important, very urgent matters.
Right. But also at the same time, for them to take that chance to come to see you, that means they're really in a lot of trouble to take that step. You understand what I mean? Because it could be really damaging for them.
Right, so it means that it's like, last resort. Like, there's no other way. Yeah. So this is talking about Yehuda, what he did. It says that this miracle was done through Yehuda. It says that when the Shvatim realized that it was Yosef, they tried to kill him. And the Malach came and spread them apart in all the corners of the house.
Wait. His brothers, when they found out that was Yosef that tried to kill him?
That's what it's saying here.
Okay.
And at that point, Yehuda screamed out in a very, very loud. And all the walls in Egypt fell. And all the women who were pregnant, they miscarried. And Yosef fell from his seat. And Paro also, and they both fell.
So Paro was in the room too?
No, Paro from his seat fell.
Okay.
And all the strong people, it says that all the strong people who were around Yosef, all of the soldiers or whatever, their faces were turned backwards. And until the day they died, it stayed that way.
They died?
No, until the day they died, it stayed that way.
Okay.
What is it? Medrash Tanchuma, it says this. And
you've read this before?
I know the Tanchuma.
And so when it says that the Kol Shubis Parah, the sound was heard in the house of Parah, so what that means, it was heard that he has brothers, right? That his brothers came.
Okay.
What it's saying here is the sound was heard. No, that's the sound of Yehuda screaming. And then after Yosef saw that they were embarrassed and they were, I guess, calm. That's what I'm understanding here. Then he said, "Come to me," and they came close and they hugged him and they kissed him and they cried.
Every time it comes to this Parshah, it just makes you break into tears. The full story about Yosef.
Yeah. It's and then it says another thing, that when Yosef revealed himself to them, they were so
Embarrassed?
surprised, everything that they immediately died. The neshama left them, and Hashem did an ish and brought their neshamas back. So this is the last thing we're going to do from this sefer, which is it says that someone who's born already circumcised, his circumcision actually is different than everybody else's. So Rashi says that Yosef showed, right? How did he prove that he was their brother? Like he said before, he showed the brit.
Okay.
He showed them to be circumcised, and only the children of Yaakov at that point were circumcised.
Okay.
Medrash Rabbah says this. Now in the Parshah Torah on the Torah, he asked a question that Yosef being circumcised is not necessarily a proof that he's Yosef. Why? Because even people descended, let's say, from Yishmael, were circumcised. So maybe Yosef is also an Arab.
Okay.
So, and also the Torah asks, Yosef told the Egyptians also to get a bris milah, right? Yosef made it a rule that they should have a brit milah because he wanted later on that the Jews I forgot what the reason was, but the Jews shouldn't be singled out and bullied because we're different. That was part of the food, right? I think when he was going to give them food, he said first,
right,
the
you have to be circumcised in order for you to be able to buy from him.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means all his neighboring countries were also getting circumcised because they all came for rations to Egypt. Right?
I don't know. It probably was only an Egyptian thing because Yosef, I think, was mainly concerned with the fact that later on the Jews, would have to be Mitzrayim and so on and so forth. But I don't know.
But his brothers came from Canaan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that means they were selling it to their neighbors.
They were, but I don't know if Yosef required all the neighbors to get circumcised. But the point is here. So what he's saying is that the shach al Torah, right? This is a kohen, I think. It's embarrassing. I don't know what it stands for, but anyway.
Okay.
He writes that Yosef was born already circumcised.
Okay.
Right? He was born minus the foreskin, and he showed that he was born circumcised. And the circumcision of a person who's already born circumcised looks different than the average circumcision. So he was able to prove to them because they knew that Yosef was born circumcised. Therefore, he says, "Look, I'm born circumcised. I must be Yosef."
And that arises more questions than it answers.
Why?
Okay, one of the questions is with genetic anomalies. Okay, throughout history, let's say a genetic anomaly is something like a hermaphrodite. Throughout history, a hermaphrodite is somebody who was born with more than one sex.
Okay, like a.
Okay, it's a problem that happens maybe once every 10 million people or something.
More than one sign of gentility.
Right.
Okay.
Now, there was more than one person in history that was born circumcised. Joseph was one of them. Moshe Rabbeinu was another. I think Noah was the third one. There was a couple of more people, but it doesn't come to my head.
Might have been Yitzchak, but I don't know. No.
The point, no, it's a Ken.
It's because it was eight.
Yeah. So the point is, if it's a genetic anomaly, then that means non-Jews could have had it too. You understand where I'm coming from?
I do.
So it's possible that an Egyptian one might have had it. So it can't be
Yeah, but how would Yosef have known that? I mean, like, what are the odds? First of all, I don't think that it is a genetic anomaly that people just out of the blue are born with circumcision. I'll tell you why. Because always, but we can't always understand. What happens physically is a manifestation of something more spiritual.
Okay.
Being born circumcised is not a moon, it's not a blemish. Being born with more than one sign of gender, more than one, sign of gender is a moon, it's a blemish.
Okay.
So unless somebody is very pure spiritually, they're not just gonna. This is what I understand. They're not just gonna be born with a circumcision. That shows on a level of purity, right?
Well, there's a small flaw with what you just said, and I'll tell you what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
Noah.
Yeah.
Noah, if he was circumcised, but yet he didn't even have thumbs, he didn't have fingers yet.
No, he was the only one who was born with fingers.
Oh, he was. Oh, okay. I thought he was born without, and then it opened up for him.
Right. And it also doesn't mean that somebody who's holy can't be born with a blemish because it's representing something else. What I'm saying is, though, I don't think that it would just be. It definitely wouldn't happen to some random person.
Right. It was selective people. Yeah, there was a reason why they were born this way.
That was part 1, guys. Stay tuned for part 2.
Time. More we're talking, more parnasa.